Now, in terms of actual pairings for Edain, well, her daughter is a priest and her son is an archer knight. So, but the main thing to consider is that Edain has no skills of her own, so you'll want to pair her with someone with some good skills to pass down, preferably pursuit. Now, the easiest pairings to make for her are Midale and Jamuka. Thankfully, both of those pairings are actually pretty good, because they both give decent skills and stats, and they're able to pass on their bows to her son. Yeah, the children inherit the parents' items as well. Also, if you remember that particular conversation involving Lex and Azel in the prologue chapter, you might be thinking Azel would be a good pairing for her. Just be a little bit careful about this though, because, well, the children's growth rates are primarily based on the same gender parents. What that means is that if you pair Edain and Azel, her son, who is a physical user, will inherit a mage's growth rates, which isn't good. Right, now, I have to interrupt that because here's the boss. Thankfully, that silver axe is, well, an axe, so he's going to be missing a lot. But still, you want to keep any weaker characters out of his range because, yeah, it's going to hurt. Or at least make sure he can only attack you with his hand axe. As I was saying, so, if you pair Azel with Edain, essentially, her daughter will be very, very good, but her son will be almost useless. I don't really recommend a pairing like that if you're a first-time player, maybe on a second playthrough or something. Well, as for me on this playthrough, I'm going to be pairing her with Midale, because, yeah, it is pretty decent and fairly easy to do as well. Yeah, you'll see that most of the enemies avoided Sigurd there because, really, he's so strong at this point. Now, you might have noticed before that this boss, Kinbois, has a droppable hand axe. Now, it's really important you plan out who defeats bosses with droppable items because it can be a bit troublesome to trade them later on. In this case, you'll want to finish him off with Lex, because Lex is just about the only guy who can use the hand axe. It's always good to have a ranged weapon on you, even if it does have crappy accuracy. And seriously, is that all his death quote is? And I thought the bosses in the first chapter were generic. Yeah, so, as you'll see there, yeah, Lex got the hand axe, which is good seeing as no one else can use it. This is particularly important for certain stat boosting items. Later on you'll see bosses that drop rings, and these can be extremely expensive to trade between characters, so it's best to plan out who gets them. Right now, just finishing off these guys and getting experience. Now that I've taken down the boss, they're going to lose his leadership bonus, so they're going to be hitting a lot less. Yeah, bosses give a small leadership bonus to enemy units near them. Similar system was also used in Radiant Dawn. Most of the time it's not really significant, but there's a certain chapter that's not coming up until much, much, much later, where it gets really, really, really annoying. But I'll talk about that when the time comes, which is quite a while. Anyway, not really much to say here, just finishing off the remains of this army and getting experience. Of course, I reckon it's probably best to prioritise those archers over the axe users because they're going to be hitting you more and can target people who can't counterattack. As usual, that silver sword Sigurd has is really awesome. Just keep using it. Unless it starts to get low on uses, in which case you might want to go to a castle and repair it. Yeah, you shouldn't really feel bad about using Quan that much now, because he is pretty useful at this point. It's just that later on you might want to hold back on him a bit, because he and Ethlyn are going to leave eventually. And Ethlyn doesn't really heal that much, but soon we'll have that healer problem solved, because, of course, Edain's going to be with us. And from the moment she gets to our army, you'll see just how much better a healer she is. And she doesn't gain crappy stats on her level ups either. Stop prioritising my ranged attackers. Well, if you're a ranged attacker, by all means prioritise my ranged attackers. Midday would have killed him if he'd hit once more. Ah, Midel just activated Duel. I find Duel to actually be quite useful on someone who can only attack from range, mainly because most of the time it'll activate against someone who can only attack physically, and yeah, that's going to be a big advantage for you. And still there's no chance of these guys catching Ju and Edain. Also, you might notice that Fighter with them actually does give them a very, very slight leadership bonus. You'll know that because it says Captain on his status screen. Yeah, there are a few generic enemy leaders who give very slight leadership bonuses in this game. And again, I'm just doing a level check to see who needs the experience most. I think it should be Azel. I think that means Kinbois' army has pretty much been dealt with now. So next we'll need to get into position, because of course we're going to have to deal with the guys chasing Ju and Edain. But they're nothing in comparison. But what we're going to have to deal with next is quite a bit harder, and if you don't have a plan in place, it can get very, very annoying. I am referring to Ira over here. Yes, stay out of her range at all costs. If anyone gets in her range, chances are they will die. You might be thinking, you know, how do you get her, but we'll concentrate on that when the time comes. For the moment, it's best just to think about the current threats, like the guy attacking this village. I don't think that conversation is any different whether you've defeated him or not. It actually makes sense either way, I think. And soon we'll have a lot more to satisfy our healing needs. I think it's time for Arden to come off castle guarding duty, and we're going to need him for this next plan.